2 o'clock. This is the meeting of the Public Accounts Committee for Monday, the 27th of October, 2025 at 2 o'clock. Honourable members, the chairperson has tendered his apology for today. He cannot make it to the meeting. And due to such, Standing Rule 82, subsection 3, is in effect right now, which states that in the absence of the chairperson from a meeting of the committee must elect one of its members to be acting chairperson at that meeting. With that mentioned, honourable members, may I please have nominations for acting chairperson for this meeting for today? Honourable Van Bemmelen, your...
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. If I may please nominate Member Van Wyk.
Member Van Wyk is nominated. Is there any other nominations from the floor or from the online platform? Going once, going twice. Is there a seconder for Honourable Van Wyk?
Thank you, Mr. Davids. I would like to second Member Van Wyk as the acting chairperson for this session.
Thank you very much, Honourable Johnson. Member Van Wyk, you are the chairperson. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks very much. I would like to welcome the committee, the members from the AG's office and from the audit committee to this meeting. And I think just to introduce and to start proceedings, I'm going to ask the members in the House to introduce themselves, and then we'll follow on with the AG and the members of the Audit Committee and the members and anyone who is online. So I'm Leon van Wyk, the acting chair.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Benedicta van Minnen, a member of SCOPA.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Peter Johnson, permanent member of SCOPA.
Good afternoon, Noma French Mbombo.
Good afternoon, Noko Masipa. I'm an alternate member on this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm just going online for any members who are online to introduce themselves.
Good afternoon.
Ladies first.
That's sexist, Chair. But nonetheless, good afternoon. My name is Petronella Lecker. I'm a member to the SCOPA committee.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, colleagues and professionals. I'm Member Boyson. I'm an alternate member of this committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going over to the AG and then for audit committee members also to introduce themselves. Sorry, did I hear, is that Member Petrus?
Yes, Chair. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, colleagues.
Good afternoon. Apologies, I didn't see your face on the screen there. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, and good afternoon, members. I'm Gina Schultz, and I was responsible for the department and Saldanha IDZ.
Good afternoon, Chair, afternoon, members. I'm Preston Whaley. I'm responsible for Atlantis SEZ.
Good afternoon, members. I'm Sebulon Africa, responsible for Westkro.
Good afternoon. I'm Faisal Jacobs, responsible for Atlantis SEZ.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, members of Parliament. I'm Tsepo Mutlomi, Auditor General Office. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Honourable Chair and members. My name is Peter Strauss. I'm the Chairperson of the Audit Committee.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. I'm Paul Slack. I'm talking today in my capacity as Chair of the Audit Committee of Freeport Saldanha, And then I got hijacked to also represent the chairperson of the audit committee of Atlantis. She couldn't be here, so I'm doing it on her behalf.
Good afternoon, Chair, honorable members, colleagues. My name is Saz Ndwandu. I am the chairperson of West Coast Audit Committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I think just to inform the meeting and everybody on the meeting that this is a closed session due to the sensitivity of information that we'll be discussing and that will be highlighted by the AG and by the Audit Committee. So, and with that, then I'm going to hand over to the Auditor General then to brief the committee. And I think what we'll do it in the order of Good afternoon. And welcome to the teams from DDAT, Wesgro, Atlantis, and Saldanha. The Standing Committee on Public Accounts has just met with the Auditor General and the Audit Committee representatives. So we've dealt with those aspects of the annual report. I will shortly give you an opportunity to introduce yourselves, and then we can get into the various sections of the annual report that the committee will deal with. I think this is not quite a T20 cricket game that we're going to have this afternoon. So it's probably what the English call a 100-baller now. And we're going to have to share the 100 balls between all four of you. So I think everybody should probably get their pads on and their helmets, and so that we can be ready to go. I'm Leon van Wyk. I'm the acting chair of the Public Accounts Committee this afternoon, and I'm going to give the honourable members an opportunity to introduce themselves, both here in the House and online, and then we'll hand over to the various teams from the administration side.
Hello, everyone. I'm Benedicta van Minnen, a permanent member of the committee, and I must say that I do prefer T20 to a 5-day match when there's also no results. So let's try to stick to the format.
Good afternoon. I'm Peter Johnson, permanent member of this committee.
Good afternoon again, Norma Friendship Bomb.
Thank you there. I'm going online for members.
Afternoon, Chair and colleagues. President Petrus.
Good afternoon, Chair. Pat Lecker, permanent member for Scopa.
Good afternoon, Chair and colleagues and the officials. I'm Member Boyson and alternate member of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to then hand over to HOD Johnson. Minister Ivan Meyer has sent his apologies. He's got some other urgent business to attend to. And so I think HOD Johnson will play both wicketkeeper and chief bowler.
Thank you, Chair. So it's Jan Johnston, HOD from DDAT. With your permission, Chair, can I ask my team just to introduce themselves? And would you like all the CEOs and chairs also then to do the round, or do you just want to do our department first?
Let's do the rounds here all at once, and then we can move into the play.
Thank you, Chair. So if I could hand over to Cheryl Julies.
Good afternoon. I'm Cheryl Julies, Director for Strategic and Operational Support, Department of Economic Development and Tourism.
Afternoon, Chair. Rashid Taufi, DDG in the department.
Good afternoon, Chair. Ilse van Skalkwijk, acting DDG in the department.
Good afternoon, Chair. My name is Tsakang Chapea. I'm Director Research in the department.
Good afternoon. I'm Tim Paul. I'm the Chief Director for Digital Economy in DDAT. I'm also running energy projects under the Department of Infrastructure.
Nizam Joseph, Chief Director, Program 7.
Aman Lawani, Acting Deputy Director, Financial Accounting, DDAT.
Bronwyn Mott, Deputy Director at the department.
Maimuna Abrams, CFO, Department of Economic Development.
Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. I'm now moving down to Wesgro and Atlantis and Saldanha.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Chair. I'm Shirley Zinn, Chair of Wesgro.
Sorry, I forgot that there were people who were not there before. Good afternoon. My name is Sazin Ndwando. I'm the chairperson of Wesgro's Audit, Risk and IT Committee. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Renal Stander, and I'm the CEO of Westgrow.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sandis Otwabe. I'm the CFO at Westgrow.
Afternoon, Chair. Christian George, Head of Trade at Westgrow.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ntogo Zolanga, Company Secretariat at Westgrow.
Good afternoon. My name is Khadija Dadis, Chief of Staff at Westgrow.
Good afternoon, Marty Carsons, Deputy Director, Strategic Coordination, but for the Department of Economic Development and Tourism.
Good afternoon, Chair. Joshua Wilmerans, Director, Enterprise Development, Department of Economic Development and Tourism.
Good afternoon, everybody. Faye Darcy, Director, Regional and Local Economic Development, DDAT.
Good afternoon, everybody. Michelle Ellis, Head of the Retail Production Unit, DDAT.
Good afternoon, Chair, honourable members. My name is Matt Callanan, the CEO of the Atlantis SEZ.
Good afternoon. My name is Wahida Saib. I'm the CFO of the Atlantis SEZ.
Good afternoon, Chair. I'm Frida Lane Williams, and I'm the Company Secretary and Legal Advisor at that Atlantis SEZ.
Good afternoon, Chair. Again, it's Paul Slack, Chair of the Audit Committee of Freeport Saldanha.
Good afternoon, Chair, members. Conrad Joseph, Executive Marketing and Stakeholder Management, Freeport Saldanha.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. My name is Tolas Tole, Interim CEO of Freeport Saldanha.
Good afternoon, Chair, members. Gareth Geldenhuys, Executive Transaction and Investor Support, Freeport Saldanha. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Herman Booneskans. I'm the CFO for Freeport Saldanha.
Good afternoon, everybody. Dilnaz Jacobs, Monitoring, Evaluation and Reporting, Atlantis SEZ.
Good afternoon, Chair. Zimkita Machabelele, SCM Specialist, Atlantis SEZ.
Good afternoon, everybody. Sadika Dengar, Financial Controller at the Atlantis Special Economic Zone.
Good afternoon, everybody. Erich Loubser, Freeport Saldanha Finance.
Afternoon, everyone. Dale Paulse, Freeport Saldanha Finance.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. As I've said, welcome to this meeting. We are going to move straight into Department of Economic Development and Tourism's annual report. We'll be dealing with sections C, E, and F. I think the committee has sort of worked very hard over the last week or two to understand how our alphabet works here. So we are from pages 122 through to 140 in that document. I know the honourable members have been telling me that they spent their whole weekend reading these documents, and they would have prepared all of their questions for today. So I'm handing over to the members here on the floor or online for any questions in section or in part C, governance. I see a member, Honourable Petrus, on the platform. You can go ahead, member.
Yes, thank you again, Chairperson. Page 122, Chairperson. The enterprise risk management policy, I want to know whether there is a new policy now. Or whether we require a new policy at this stage. And then I also want to make reference to the key risks on page 124, Chairperson. How are we going to deal with that risks, and are there any new plans to address that risks? Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Member Petrus. Yes, I share your question there on the risks, the strategic risks or challenges that are being faced within this space. And obviously, within the nature of the work that you undertake there. I'm just looking to see if there are any further questions at this stage. I don't see any, so I'm handing over to you, HOD, and whoever is able to respond to those questions.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Honourable Member Petrus. I'm going to hand straight over to the CFO to respond.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Member. I think with regard to the risk management policy, so the risk management policy gets reviewed annually. And then depending on what has changed within the risk environment, that thing gets incorporated within the risk management policy. It goes through a process where it gets discussed with our governance committee and if effectively then gets approved by the accounting officer and communicated to the rest of the department. With regard to the question around the risk, again, based on our risk management policy, there's a very detailed risk management process that the department undertakes. And that starts off with us identifying our strategic risks and looking at what is the ratings, the mitigations, etc. And I think more importantly for us is that on a quarterly basis, those risks are then discussed and tabled at what we call our governance committee. And the Part C actually has a listing of who the members are and what the key areas of responsibilities that these members need to undertake within the governance committee. So it's a process and it gets discussed, the mitigations, the ratings, etc. We look at that on a quarterly basis, and then annually, again, the strategic risk management process also gets reviewed. Thank you.
Thank you very much there. I'm just looking to committee. Are there any further questions on Part C? C, Member Mbombo.
Thank you, Chair. I'm trying to get into the pages, but probably I must just comment under general. Whether I should do it under general for the department, but it's mostly on the performance indicators, general. So I'm looking in terms of some of the indicators that the department set. I understand that others are influenced by the sector. So no issue with the indicator, but the issue with the targets. Just to make an example, the targets that the indicators that the AG used and the targets which made the AG to score you in terms of the clean audit. If you look at each, just making an example so that you could be able to example, the program 2 on the integrated economic development services. If you look there in terms of the targets that you set for that indicator, it talks about it talks about like the number of the businesses supported with the business development services. That's fine, but the question is about why almost all in these indicators compared to the previous years, you have reduced all these indicators. And therefore, and then when you put in terms of the actual achieved, it becomes overachieved. Just making an example for the one that I'm talking about, in 2022-2023, the number of business supported with business development, your target there was 270. In the 23 financial year was 163. In the now, in this financial year, we're busy with your target was 200. And then you ended up having 224, which is the deviation is about 24. But if you make a comparison of the 2020, that was 270. And then the other one was 163. And then you target 2. So you already have made yourself that you have overachieved, yet you already have set a baseline and a benchmark. So that you are 224, but you are coming from the 270. I mean, you lowered your benchmark. Similar with the next program, which is the trade and sector development, which is the program 3 for the trade and sector development, for example, where, again, I'm not sure, like, it's not my area, but I've never have thought that you would be using the output indicator as the number of oversight reports, based on oversight reports, but that's not the point, because that one is smaller, Nyana, because you use 2. But the main one is on skills development and innovation, is program 7. Program 7. If you look in terms of the program 7, where it talks specifically is the skills program and projects. The one that talks about the number of unemployed persons placed in the HR employment opportunities and all of those. Again, your target 2022-23 was about 4,684. For the financial year of 23 was 4,200. Guess what? For this annual target, you set yourself 2,900. 2,900. It's not even 3,000. It's 2,900. And therefore, the actual that you achieved is 2,963. And then you clap hands that the deviation is 63. We've done quite well. But yet you dropped by almost a half. Of course, there's nothing wrong with that. But what I did now, I went to the financials to make a comparison in terms of at an input level, your investment in these projects. But we have increased the investment in these projects or others, the finance is still the same, yet you drop your targets by half with the same amount of money, and then you clap hands for achieving the yet you drop it. So that's what I wanted to find out, that what is the rationale for generally for such in terms of, because as I'm saying that I do understand, because I'm coming from health, we always change the indicators where you might skip a year, you find that in this particular year, it won't make any difference because it takes about maybe after 3 years where you can make a difference, whether it's a death, mortality from diabetes. Therefore, we keep on changing. But here, I don't have an understanding in terms of why you are dropping the indicators, yet the money is still the same, or you have invested more on it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm handing over for response there.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I think for a number of the targets that we have set, frequently they demand-led, so you're never quite sure what the target will be because they are demand-led. And what I've asked the teams to do is in going forward is just to look at the historical figures and see what the trend is, because sometimes they change from month to month or quarter to quarter. So that's the first thing, just around the setting of targets and seeing what is as realistic as possible. The second thing is because we have shifted to partnership models, we often, our money is the seed money, we can only really set a target for what our money would buy. We don't really have certainty around whether we're able to leverage external money. So in the case of skills in particular, but also in the case of enterprise development, often these numbers are obtained through partnerships, so joint funding or collaborative affairs, which allows us then to increase the numbers. But I can ask Rashid just to provide some of the specifics, particularly around Program 7 and possibly Program 2. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. Just to bear in mind that the actuals that you're looking back, the 270 on page 65, those are not the target. We haven't lowered the target. That's the overperformance against what was the target. And similarly, the next year, as you can see, it then went down to 163. So if you were to draw a line across that, that shows you that it is variable. And because that's literally the number of people who call our red tape reduction helpline or who walk into our office. So if in 1 year it's entirely demand led, but just to clarify that the reason we're setting the target at 200, it's the 270 wasn't a target that we suddenly lowered. The previous numbers were either under or over the target. So that's the explanation for that. It's very much demand led. You don't know who's going to walk through the door this year. And then Nizam, I think would like to explain the program 7. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Rashid. Yeah, I think just to crystallize the numbers. So on experiential learning program, it's typically 3,500 rand a month for a period of 12 months, right? So that's about, say, 36,000 rand per learner, right? In addition to that, there's about another 30,000 rand for skills development, right? So if you look at our budget last year was 56 million rand. Now, if you only take the stipend component, that's 104 million, right? Plus, you have to add the skill component. If you multiply that skill component of, say, 30,000 rand, multiply that by 2,900, will give you another 100 million. So you could see that our component of the overall budget is very, very small relative to what the overall program would cost. And like DDG just said, that it really depends on the extent to which we can leverage external funds. We can only set our target based on the funds that we have. And then we built in some degree of leverage in there, but never to the extent to which we actually leverage. That's the first. The second thing is that if you look at the technical indicator, the definition of the technical indicator changed. So on the technical indicator, historically, we recognized a person supported after 1 month of support, right? For this current financial year, we extended that to multiple months, and only after multiple months of support do we recognize that particular individual. We'll probably go back to the initial one, because after evaluating the reality is that very often someone will have 1 or 2 months experience and they'll find employment and leave the program for permanent employment. So just in summary, one is it's very much dependent on funding leverage. That funding leverage comes from private sector mainly and other sources. And the other is that the technical indicator slightly changed from this current year under review relative to the previous year. Thank you.
Going to see if there are any further questions here. I think we can then move on to Part E. Part E is pages 180 to 189. And I'm looking for any questions that we may have here. I see Member Petrus. You can go ahead.
Yes, it's, I don't know if whether we addressed regular expenditure, page 180 and 181, and then the late payments on 187, Chairperson.
Fine, thank you. I think we got those. Okay, I think we can go right ahead with them. Thank you.
CFO, please.
Thank you, Member. Thank you, Chair. I think with regard to the irregular expenditure, the table below does provide that explanation, but let me maybe just expand a bit. So with regard to the regular expenditure, the 60,000, I'm assuming the members asking a question related to the 24-25 financial year. So we have 13,000, which is new irregular expenditure, and that relates to a supply chain management issue that arose. And in the irregular expenditure condone, which is the 60,000, consists of two amounts, a 57,000 as well as the 3,000, which both was condoned, one by Provincial Treasury, which is your 3,000, and the 57,000 refers to a condonement that was done by the accounting officer. Then with regard to the 30 days non-payment, the 30 days late payment, at least, it's payments that are related to the first 6 months of the financial year. I think to note that we have implemented two things from a control mechanism perspective. We've implemented a online training program, and then we've also gone through a process with staff that was guilty around the 30 days to look at how they to just familiarize themselves with the process. I think in addition to probably the reasons for the 30 days, it's a lot related to the current vacancies within financial management, and then also some of the vacancies that exist within the line function. But perhaps to just give the member comfort is that for the first 6 months of this financial year, we've not had any 30-day non-payment issues. So I think from a control mechanism perspective, we're fairly comfortable that we've got the area now in hand. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. I'm going over to Member Lacker and then Member Momo.
Thank you, Chair. Chairperson, I want to start from page 189, where it says there has been an extension under contract notification. Can we just get clarity as to what informs that extension? Was there no other process that could have been followed instead of extending a contract? Why not maybe take it for tender process or advertisement? The same goes to under the description of project where there's limited bidding. Still in page 189, going to 188. I'm just interested in knowing, instead of limited bidding, what are other competitive measures that could be employed here, for obvious reasons, because this might lead to capturing of an institution. So is there no other alternative? Then moving forward again, Chairperson, would be under the damage and losses in page 186. What actually really happened, because I see that the matter was referred to the state attorney for further assessment. What happened? What were the findings that led to this matter being referred to the state attorney? Then lastly, Chairperson, on page, let me see, page 184, under fruitless and wasteful expenditure, there was nothing for 2023-2024, but under 2024-2025, we see that there's 4. So I want to understand what actually happened there. Were there any consequence management process that was put in place in order to avoid this from reoccurring? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Lacker, then Member Mbombo.
Thank you, Chair. On the supply chain, the general question, the Western Cape government has come up with a media statement about the 30% of their procurement going to women. So at what extent have you contributed? Because when I was looking in terms of, I wanted to granulate according to the departments, but it was general, like it was a general knowledge that health, it's an 8 billion contribution in terms of the goods and service, others 5 billion and so forth. But specifically now for the whole of your sector, that is number one. And number two, because you are economic development, because in some cases you'll find that you'll brag, but you want to find that Jane already has been developed. So that's why Jane could be able to compete. But we have got a Mary who needs to be developed as specifically as an SMME, needs to be developed. At what extent your role in developing the Marys, more specifically those who are from the SMMEs,
in regard to so that they could be able to compete with Jane in that space in the area of the economic development. Thanks.
Thank you, Member Mombo. I'm handing over to HOD and team.
Thank you very much, Chair, and to the honourable members. I'm going to hand straight over to my CFO for a response. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to try and go in the order of the questions. So perhaps if I can start off with the contract variations. So starting off with the travel management contract. So we, in terms of EPS, we are allowed to go up to R1 million. So the extension was a small extension that allowed us to go from, I think it was around 700,000 to 1 million. So it's not crossing any threshold values. It was just whilst we were busy with our big travel tender to allow us to actually have a travel order so that none of the line function could obviously not travel. So very small variation. The second one relates to the red tape area. And in that instance, what happened was there was 2 municipalities specifically that was involved, and I'm sure I saw Michelle will probably have far better detail. But just to state that the extension was based on where we were actually awaiting stakeholder information as it related to land rights specifically. So the project is completed at this point, but when we commenced with the project, and I think the HOD also alluded to the fact that a lot of our projects have got a collaborative approach, which is also where I'm going to speak to the limited bidding process. And because of that, there was some point where we actually awaited information from 2 landowners in terms of the land rights issue. And again, it didn't cross any threshold values. With regard to the limited bidding, I think the limited bidding is always a question that it's very important for us as a department to ensure that we always follow an open bidding process. So limited bidding is really only in cases where there is a very good motivation and we have sound reason for limited bidding. In the department's case, we've got a policy that is based on 3 things specifically, again, aligned to what the HOD spoke about in terms of us having a collaborative partnership approach. So we only do limited bidding in the instance where there's a partnership approach. So what do I mean by that? Is where a partner has either started a project and they're going to be putting funding in, or they are providing a venue and we need to do catering. So in those instances, it would be impractical for us to go through an open bidding process. The other instances where we have projects that is running into a year 2 or year 3, and we do a national continuation, again, in terms of the legislation, it's allowed because it's impractical for us to go out and redo that project. And in the third instance is where we talk about limited bidding, single source technical. And that is where we've done a market analysis and the market shows us that the only service providers that is available and that has the necessary technical expertise is supplier A. Again, very detailed motivation, business case attached to it. And only in those instances where, again, it's proven that it's impractical to go through an open bidding process, would we then follow the limited bidding. To add, all of the limited bidding, because it's deviations, gets audited, and we've not received any single finding within our limited bidding space. Then with regard to the question on the fruitless and wasteful expenditure, maybe to just add, it was only one case, the 4 refers to 4,000, and it relates to an official that missed their plane for various reasons, but they missed their plane. And yes, the fruitless and wasteful expenditure did go through, again, in terms of legislation, you have to, it went through the necessary process, consequence management. Then I think that might have been all of it. Oh, no, I've just missed one, the damages and losses. So the damages and losses, it's not, so all our GG vehicles, we lease from government motor transport, and that just relates to staff that is either they get into accidents or they damage the vehicle in whatever way. So generally what happens is that GMT, we refer the case to GMT firstly for the initial investigation. And then based on that, again, in terms of a policy, we must refer the cases to the state attorney, who would then further assess the damage or loss to determine whether the official is liable for whatever losses or damages that was incurred. Thank you. I think the question related to SCM, and I think more supply development, I'm going to ask that Joshua answer that because I think it's more related to that. But I think the question was very valid in terms of how PT has determined it. It's generally a aggregated figure in terms of the province. So from an information perspective, we could perhaps later look at what DDAT's attribution is to that. But I think from a supply development, because we do have a supply development program, I'm sure Josh would be able to provide, would probably do that question a lot more justice than me, Josh.
Thank you, CFO. So in terms of the supply development, so I think for us, MS, the development of micro, small and medium enterprises is critical. And especially in terms of access to market opportunities, both within I think the public sector and the private sector. So for example, in terms of supplier open days, so for those particular projects, we engage with both the municipalities, we engage with organizations such as the SARS, CIPC, the National Home Builders Regulatory Council, all the kind of regulatory bodies to enable and support and capacitate these businesses to become compliant and to become ready to access market opportunities. Through these engagement sessions, we also speak to them about what opportunities are available both at a national, provincial, but also at the local level in terms of support, because oftentimes these businesses are not aware what support is available from an access to market perspective. So we make them aware about what is available and how they can potentially then access that. We also partner with the Department of Infrastructure on their contractor development sessions, where specifically your construction-related businesses, your CIDB ones, your lower-level CIBD, talk to them about what support is available. We also bring together a lot of those regulatory bodies that enhances their compliance. One of the projects, for example, that we embarked on last year was also with infrastructure, where they were taught around project management. So there's the NEC 4 qualification that's required or certification. So that enables them to access especially engineering and construction related tenders. So through that particular process, we trained about close to 100 of these businesses. And because of that certification process, they're now able to access the public sector procurement opportunities because of the certification and the training that they underwent. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for those replies. I am not seeing any further hands at this stage, so we can move off to section part F, which is page 193 to 266, and in awaiting any questions here from members. I see Member Petrus.
Yes, Chair, page 238. I see there's on top, there's an increase in the spending for consultants. And then on page 243, Chairperson, is donations that was made to municipalities and certain institutions. Can we perhaps have that names of that municipalities and institutions receive donations, Chairperson?
Thank you for that, Member Petrus.
Can I finish? It's
No,
only one.
sure.
Yes, in page 253, that's liabilities claims against the department by some of the former employees. Can we have an explanation on that, please?
Good, thank you. Then I see Member Lacker. I think your camera is on, Member Lacker.
Hi, Chairperson. May I please request for 1 minute or two as I'm trying to upload my questions from the soft copy. Thank you.
Okay, fine. We'll deal with the first set of questions. I'm looking, are there any questions here within the House? No. Okay, so I think we can go ahead there.
Okay, again, I'm going to ask may I, Chair? The CFO, just to provide an explanation around the donations, just a little bit more detail. And then the second is I'm going to ask our Director of SOS to respond just around the legal liability issue.
Thank you once again, Chair. I think to start off with the questions around consultants. On page 238, on the top of the page, the reasons for the increase in expenditure, the item consultant is largely due to the development of our JET IP project, as well as one of our tech projects, which is the drone project. Then, Chair, the question related to the municipalities. I think it's so. Firstly, the donation refers to last year and not so the 23-24 financial year, and not the 24-25 financial year. But nevertheless, the municipalities, and again, I'm going to look at Josh because he's going to remember all of them probably. But it was definitely Laingsburg, Mossel Bay, and then Josh, maybe you can help in terms of the energy projects, if you can remember the other municipality.
CFO, the thing that just slips my mind, but I mean, if we can maybe just draft it in writing too.
Chair, we can provide the committee with further detail in terms of the list of municipalities.
Certainly, that will be fine.
Chair, can I actually respond? It is Esequa, Laingsburg, Mossel Bay. We actually had 1, 2, 3, 4 areas in Mossel Bay. And then the last area, Swellendam, Barrydale. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that. I'm going across to Member Lacquer now, and then I see Member Petrus's hand is still up.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I have a question in page 193. Under supplementary information set out on pages. And given that there has been an indication that the supplementary information set out on pages 266 to 285 was not audited, and that there was no opinion. I understand that the AG chooses whatever program that they would be working on. And in this case, there were programs that were chosen. And I want to understand if these were not audited and there was no opinion given on it, then what type of financial or performance information is contained in unaudited schedules? And also why such information was not subjected to audit verification. Perhaps this together, the AG and the department, particularly maybe the department can give light as to what programs are selected for auditing purpose and why others are not selected. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Lacquer. Member Petrus.
Yes, Chair, I want to go back to the consultants. I just want to know what was the impact of that extra consultants that was mentioned on the budget? What was the amount for that two consultants? And then apart from the municipalities, the list of the municipalities, can we also have the list for the other institutions that receive that donations, Chairperson?
Right, thank you, Member Petrus. I think just on there was that query on the supplementary information that the auditors normally don't audit within financial statements. It's quite a standard procedure, as I understand that. I don't know if you could perhaps just confirm that in your reply.
Chair, thank you. Again, the information in terms of all the consultants. Someone probably needs to mute.
Yes. I think we are muted now.
Is on page 173, 174, and 175, and including 176 of the annual report. So all the detail in terms of that you'll find in that section of the annual report. The questions on the donations is in the annexures that the chair also just referred to now. So all the detail in terms of the transfers to each and every entity is also in the back of the annual report. It's the entity's name, the name of the municipality, the grant allocation. So that comes through from page 264 right to the end of the section. Thank you, Chair.
And also just to confirm that with regards to the performance information on the programs, the AG usually does a selection because of capacity and cost. And so they would select a certain number of programs to audit. And generally, as a guide, we understand the AG uses where the most money may be spent on a particular program, and then select that for an audit for the audit process. Thanks.
Right, thank you for that. I still see Member Petrus. Is that a legacy hand?
Yes, Chairperson, I don't know whether there's a misunderstanding, but we can leave it. If we ask questions, Chairperson from the officials, it's in the book, but we want to have it on record from them. They must explain to us the amounts and the reasons for that. And it seems they don't want to do that. They keep on referring us to the pages. We know where the pages are, Chairperson. That's why we're asking the questions.
I think that if we could perhaps just give on those pages 170, I think they were 174 to 176 with the utilization of consultants. If we could perhaps just give a brief synopsis then on the appointment of consultants and why we make use of them, because I think there's a detail on each of the projects is indicated there. So if we could perhaps just summarize that.
So, yeah, I think maybe, Chair, from an appointment of consultants perspective, so within the department, we require certain specialized skills to deliver within, to deliver on our G4J strategy. In this case specifically, we used a Rebel Group Consulting to deliver on the JET IP strategy or project. And ultimately, the nature of the project was to develop the Western Cape Job Energy Transition Investment Plan, JET IP. The value of that contract was 3 million. We have been, I think, very satisfied with the work in terms of what we've received. So from a delivery perspective, we've received a return on the project itself. And I think to the extent that we are looking at taking the project to its next phase. Chair, do you want me to go through each one of them, or was it was, I think the member asked about JET IP specifically.
You know, as I read it, these are project-specific situations where you've tried to identify whether it be in the film incentive scheme or whether it be in drone as thing. There's the Port of Cape Town, etc., where you brought in specialist consultants who know that particular area, who've provided advice then to the department,
Yeah.
which then enhances that project, if
Yeah.
that's is what my understanding is.
Yeah. And then in terms of the National Treasury circular, we need to ensure that there's a proper business case for the appointment of all these consultants and that there is a skills gap analysis. And what's very important is that there must be a performance assessment, which I think is also linked to the member's question. So through the contract management process, we need to ensure that we've actually performance managed these consultants, and that they, obviously before we make a final payment and before we conclude on those contracts, that they have delivered in terms of what we've set out in our service level agreements. Thank you.
Thank you. I think with that we conclude on DDAT then, and we can move on to Westrow. But I see HOD still wants to have that the 11th player can at least still bat.
Sorry, Chair, but I think there was just one question about the liability, legal services liability that was reflected in our financials. It's just to say that the case is in litigation, so we can't necessarily publicly divulge, given the fact that it's in litigation, but we are able to provide perhaps in writing some of the details, if with your permission, Chair.
Thanks, that would be welcome. Okay, so we move on to the next innings, which is Westrow. And let us see if we've got some super fast bowlers here in Westrow to get Westrow to face up. And I'm just going to part C, which is governance, is page 96 through to 113. And looking for any questions there. I think, yes, the DDAT team, you are welcome to stay or to leave. Thank you very much for your contributions this afternoon and participation. So governance is on page 96, 97. And I'm looking to see if there are any questions. I do not see any questions or any hands. So that means we can move on to part E, which is the compliance report, page 120. So it's 120 going through to 127. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. We now moving on to part 3, and we'll get the spinners to bowl now from page 129. Any leg spinners? Off spinners? I'm not seeing any questions on that. So somehow, Westrow, you are able to take the game without having to face any balls. So thanks very much, Westrow. We can then move on to Atlantis. Atlantis Special Economic Zone. And we have section part C from page 70. Okay, looking to committee for questions on Atlantis Special Economic Zone, and that's pages 70 to 81. I still see no hands, therefore moving on to section E, pages 88 to 93. I think there was some irregular expenditure that was included there in that aspect. So I don't know if we perhaps just wish to do that for the record. There was one invoice, and that was subject to a dispute that was longer than 30 days. I think we need to have a question answered at least here. So I'm handing over there to yourselves, Atlantis.
Thank you, Chair. I'll ask the CFO to respond to that.
Thank you, Chair. So there were 2 instances of irregular expenditure that was identified by the auditors, both related to non-compliance with the preferential procurement regulations. The one in particular was, the first one I should mention was around a security tender that was awarded not to the bidder that scored the highest points, but rather to a local SMME in Atlantis. So we were wrapped over the knuckles over that one. We've done a thorough investigation into it. We've applied consequence management in relation to it. We've done a thorough overhaul on our supply chain management processes, and we've instituted a lot of improvements in terms of the internal control environment around both instances of irregular expenditure that was identified. I don't know if Zimkita wants to add.
Thanks, CFO. So just to add on what the CFO has said, the irregular expenditure resulted to the non-compliance. The intention was not to overlook the PPFA and the regulation, but was to align with the SMME policy of the entity, so to grow the local economy in Atlantis and through procurement. However, it was missed in terms of the requirement. The PPR requires that the evaluation criteria is stated in the tender document. So that was the element that was missed when we were drafting the specifications. Otherwise, the entire tender process was not flawed, and all the compliance have been met, and it was just only that element. Thank you. And since then, we have enhanced the supply chain environment, including the training that has been provided in terms of drafting specifications, conducting evaluating tenders and all that, and staff has been trained, and we are improving in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I still do not see any hands, so I think we can move on to part F, which starts on page 94 through 143. Any questions in respect of that? I think we've covered Atlantis, so I think that means that we are through with Atlantis. Thank you very much for your participation. I think earlier when the AG and the audit committee was with us, there was an element of discussion on each of the entities as well. So possibly that then covered a number of the areas that we needed to look at. So we're moving on to Freeport Saldanha, and the governance section there is on pages 53 through 66. Oops. I'm just looking once again at committee to see if there is anything there. Yeah, I think perhaps just on, I know it features a bit later in the financials, I do notice that I think you'd been through 4 CEOs over the 2 financial years, are listed in the back in part F. I think it was, if I can find that page, it's page 126. The remuneration that CEO up to the end of December 23, and then up to the end of September 24, there was an appointment there, then followed from October to January, and from February 20, I assume it's 2025 as opposed to 24 in the document. But are there any comments on that one?
Thank you, Chair. Can I please defer to the department, to the HOD on that?
Okay, HOD.
Thank you. Obviously, the report is a 3D. So all I can just make is the observation of what transpired over the 2 years. So the CEO basically resigned. It was Kasha Babukas. Family got posted abroad. And in the interim, while they were busy with the recruitment, they had an acting CEO, which was essentially the former COO, who was on the brink of retirement. And I think given where Freeport had found itself, a collaboration that emerged with the IDC, who also has a presence on the board, and they effectively, through this partnership and collaboration, have assigned really senior people from their SEZ support unit to essentially run and be what they're calling the interim CEO. So initially there was a gentleman called Neville Maitjes, who unfortunately also got promoted, and he now heads up the Brand SA. And he still continues to be a strong support for the Western Cape. And we are privileged and lucky enough to have Nola Satole, who is a CEO at this particular point in time. And there are some, I think, discussions around till when the contract can be extended. So we are quite sure that and firm that we do need to have continuity within the Freeport. But we've been also very privileged and lucky to have excellent leadership thus far in the 2 years. Thanks.
Thank you, HOD. In the absence of any questions, we're moving on to, I think, E and F. E runs 71 to 74, and effectively is just dealing with the AG's report and the Accounting Authority and the Audit and Risk Committee. And then we move straight into F, which follows from page 75 onwards. Just looking to see if there are any questions there. It doesn't appear to be that we have any other questions relating to part F. So I think going once, going twice, going 3 times. So I think that concludes the work of the Public Accounts Committee in dealing with the Department of Economic Development and Tourism, plus the 3 entities. So thank you very much for being with us today. And I hope you have a pleasant afternoon. You still have a little bit of afternoon. I was fearing we would need to call on the floodlights for the night part of the game today, but it looks like we can then, I'm not allowed to say what we can go to now afterwards, but I'm sure it is it's the procedural officers arranged some tea and coffee, so it'll no doubt be tea and scones, as it would be in cricket terms, down the passageway there, and the committee will just deal with the last of their procedural matters, and then we will join you shortly. Thanks very much for your participation. Thanks, committee. I think we've dealt with that aspect. So I think I will hand over to you, procedural officer, on any notes that you may have gathered over the course of the afternoon of the meeting.
Thank you, Chairperson. I've just noted the concern of member from Member Mbombo regarding the target achieved versus the budget spend of Freeport Saldanha IDZ Chair. So that concern will just be a note in the report of the committee chair. I don't know if the committee wants to have a resolution on that. But then, Chair, just to request for documentations, it's Member Peters on page 243, donations to municipalities and institutions. He asked for the institution part, and then as well, page 253, liabilities against the department. The department indicated that they can give a written response on that, Chair. Thank you.
I don't know if there are any further additional comments or resolutions that we need to deal with. I imagine within the standing committee itself, there are possibly a number of issues that ideally they should be picking up in terms of the effectiveness possibly of the various programs that they are undertaking. I see Member Lacker is online. I'll give you an opportunity now. And then, so I suppose that's something that the Standing Committee can look at. Member Lacker?
No, thank you, Chair. I think I made and requested some details regarding the matter that was referred to the state attorney about a case. So if we can get some details to it. I know they said the matter is before the court, but even so, there is some information that could be shared with members. Thank you.
I think that that was indicated by the department, and Mr. Davids has got that noted down. Anything further to note? I'm not seeing any hands, so I think that brings us to the end of this meeting. Thanks very much for everyone's participation. It has certainly been a pile of pages that we needed to go through, well over 1,000 pages that we had for this meeting. So thank you everybody for your participation. The meeting's concluded.
Thank you, Chair and colleagues.